And a good Friday, everybody. Welcome into the First Call podcast. Jeremy Plonk alongside Jeff Siegel as we handicap 8 stakes races each and every week. We are one BC, one post BC after the Breeders' Cup here, just finishing up last week. It's a quieter time on the schedule, Jeff Siegel, but we still got some good racing and lots to talk about.
We do. I like this time of the year. I can kind of back off just a little bit and do some reflection and update the databases and the programs that I use. And I got a couple of months before Santa Anita opens, but Gulfstream's going to be open pretty soon, so we'll be diving into that. But this week we've got a couple of nice races at Aqueduct and Woodbine, graded stakes there. Del Mar is opening up, so we'll look at that. Brief fall meeting there. Churchill still going strong, and so there's a chance to make some money, and that's what we're here for.
For those of you watching on YouTube and on Twitter, be sure to like, repost, hit that thumbs up button, all those good things to help spread the word about the First Call podcast. Those of you listening on our traditional audio channels for the podcast, for your benefit, here's the schedule of races we'll take a look at this week. From Laurel Park, we'll go for the 38 Go-Go Stakes, one of 3 stakes on the card in Maryland on Saturday. At Gulfstream, one of 2 stakes, the Juvenile Filly Sprint will handicap. We'll go to Aqueduct for the Pebbles and the Red Smith as turf racing winds down in the Northeast. At Woodbine, it'll be the Maple Leaf and the Ontario Matron on our schedule. Churchill Downs on the grass for the River City on Saturday. And at Del Mar, the Catherine Crosby. Bing gets his stakes in the summer. Catherine Crosby gets her stakes in the fall at Del Mar. It is opening day at Del Mar, so celebrate that as we record our podcast each and every Friday. Post time today, it's a little bit earlier. I believe it's 12:30 local time, so 3:30 Eastern for post time at Del Mar. Not quite those late starts you're used to in the summer, so if you're waiting around for Del Mar, it's going to hit you a little bit earlier on the East Coast than on the West Coast too, of course, than what you're used to in the summertime. And you're playing Del Mar this meet, be sure to do so with Express Bet and First Bet, where there's a $2,000 late pick 4 hit and split every single day in the meet. So if you hit the late pick 4 at Del Mar, we're the place to do it with, because you get an extra $2,000 split just amongst you and others on the platform who hit the late pick 4 at Del Mar. So sink your teeth into that. Also, a nice night of racing tonight, Jeff, at Remington Park. 3 stakes races in Oklahoma City tonight. So we're going to get a look at a horse who ran at Remington Park recently in one of our stakes coming up a little bit later in our handicapping portion of the show. But 3 good stakes tonight. And if you want to get my analysis of those races, be sure to follow me on Substack. Jeremy.Plonk at Substack. I'm going to send out a pick 4 ticket tonight for Remington Park, which includes all 3 of those stakes races. So be sure to sign up for that free, and we'll send you out handicapping information throughout the course of the fall and into the winter. Okay, Jeff, let's get handicapping. 38 Go-Go Stakes. First up at Laurel Park on Saturday for our handicapping tasks here. It's one of 3 stakes on the card. The Smart Halo and the James Lewis races 6 and 7 are for the 2-year-olds. These are the older horses, fillies and mares, and it should be, because 38 Go-Go was a really top filly and mare in the Mid-Atlantic. Multiple stakes winner in Maryland. She won in New Jersey. She won in New York. She was good in the late 80s, early 90s when I was finishing up high school. She's got the stakes in her name. It's our Express Bet race of the weekend. Let's get your take on it right now.
Good race. We've got Intrepid Daydream, who has won 3 in a row. Very consistent. Daughter of Jess's Dream, and coming off a win in the Marilyn Million Distaff. And then you've got Luna Bell, who was off a long layoff and actually ran 3rd in that race. Looked a little rusty, but she won't be, I'm sure, with that race under her belt. I think those are the 2. Interesting thing about Intrepid Daydream, she's won 12 times. She's got 6 wins in 3 seconds. Most of her races have been, in fact, all but one, I think, have been around 1 turn.
Right.
So she's stretching out to 1 mile and 1/16, which is 2 turns. But I don't think you should worry about that. Looking at the form, she ran 2 turns. The only time she ever ran 2 turns was in the maiden race. She won by 16 3/4 lengths, which begs the question, why hasn't she been running long more than she has? The reason for that is because she can sprint as well. And she's coming off, I say, 3 wins. The numbers are very consistent and very strong. I liked her last race. I don't see why she shouldn't run at least as well. And she's got that great tactical speed. But her win in the Maryland Million Distaff over 7/8, again, strong, 87 bar number. She's hit the 90s in the past. Fast on numbers, consistent, good tactical speed. All adds up to a filly that should be tough to beat.
Let's take a look at that last start on Marilyn Million Day.
They're at the top of the stretch. Intrepid Daydream on the outside, pushing by Response Time. Fetus Breeze trying to reach, but she's got plenty to do. Out the center of the track is Lunabelle, moving fourth, almost third now. But Intrepid Daydream is full of run, opening up now 5 lengths on Response Time. Lunabelle is running strongly into third to try to grab second, but it is going to be Intrepid Daydream and Response Time and Lunabelle. Third of the comeback, and Marvelous was fourth.
You mentioned Luna Bell on the comeback there, and Dave Rodman's golf was like a year away for Luna Bell. She was like one of the top 2-year-old, 3-year-old type fillies in Maryland, and off the layoff, she ran really well. So second off the break, it'll be interesting to see because a lot of times those horses move way forward, and then sometimes they take a big bounce if they did too much in the return. But that looked like a return race that would set her up nicely towards the next one. Another one to consider in there in the 38 Go-Go, the defending champ in the race, Hybrid Eclipse, for trainer Brittany Russell. Looked up this stat on BetMix. Mile and a 16th races at Laurel are a little tricky because it's a 1 1/8 oval. So this race starts almost right on top of the clubhouse turn. You know, which jockeys do well at the 1 1/16th distance, which trainers do well with their horses. Brittany Russell, the trainer of Hybrid Eclipse, defending champ in this race. This year at Laurel Park, she's winning only 35% in 1 1/16th races. So that's a good number. There's a lot of pace in here. Hybrid Eclipse from off the pace would be the late running threat. But Intrepid Daydream should be forward, as Jeff has mentioned. One time going 2 turns, a 16-length winner there at Laurel Park. So a lot to like in that race and something to really sink your teeth into, I think, there at Laurel. Again, for that will be the last of 3 consecutive stakes races. They've got 2 2-year-old races leading up to that. So if you like to play the late pick 4s, late pick 5s, Laurel Park on Saturday, you're going to get a trio of stakes races to interpret there. Let's go next on our schedule to Gulfstream Park, where they run the Juvenile Fillies and the Juvenile Sprint on the card. Juvenile Fillies Sprint is the one we're going to focus on in race number 4. The other race goes as race number 8 on the program. Jeff circled this one because he likes the looks of Chi-Chi in here, coming off a win at Remington Park, a road less traveled at Gulfstream.
Into the stretch, Chi-Chi, Curlin's Magic wide, goes to the front. Hit my stride to the inside, right there, third. Coming on now, here's Texas Women for Arts. Race on in the Gaylord. Chi-Chi, Curlin's Magic, Chi-Chi, Curlin's Magic. Coming on still, Texas Women for Arts. Chi-Chi gets the lead back at the 16th, and Chi-Chi trying to power away from Curlin's Magic, and will do so. Chi-Chi by a length in the Gaylord Memorial.
Of course, that was in the daylight. It was Oklahoma Derby Day. They don't run many not under the lights at Remington Park. It was a good trip for Herman Walensky to send that one out there for Stakes Company in the Gaylord. Jeff, what impressed you about Chi-Chi?
Well, first of all, she was coming back to Gulfstream anyway. You might as well just stop over midway and take a day off and run, and that's exactly what she did. We had her out in California, and she ran a couple of races that were better than looked. In fact, her 4th place finish behind a very nice filly named Soho 2 races back when she stumbled at the start. I thought that was good. A couple of grass races back on now, first time on the dirt at Remington in the stake, and 5-1, so it wasn't exactly an easy spot, and yet she won very nicely. She showed speed, she stalked the pace, switched off nicely, disposed of the pace setter into the stretch, fought off the challenge of a filly on the outside, drew off, galloped out well, earned a good 81 buyer number. That's going to win stakes just about anywhere. And going, having just won at 6.5, that's a good distance for her. Obviously, from the rail, she's going to have to break cleanly, but if she does, I mean, that's why she's 7-5 on the morning line. But I do think that she's a decent sort of filly from a young stallion that I think is pretty good, named Audible. And I think she's going to win this race and maybe go on to bigger and better things. She's a Florida bred, and there's a lot of money for Florida breds. We know that. So I think Chi-Chi's got a nice future, not only in this race, but then into her 3-year-old season.
Most of us, when we take a road trip, we stop off at a truck stop, and we get a Slurpee or a coffee. We don't stop off for a $50,000 stakes victory. But I-40 was a good road traveled for Herman Walensky and Chi-Chi coming east there. Like you said, a very nice winner in the Gaylord Memorial last time out. She's taking on some horses in here who have local stakes experience. Epona's Hope comes off a 3rd in the Desert Vixen of the Florida Sire Stakes Series. A good 3rd place finish at 8-5 in that one. So she's got some experience over the track. Chi-Chi, locally based, though, she's been back at Gulfstream for a couple months now, so it's not going to be totally foreign territory for it, but she hasn't raced over the track in the afternoon. That's race number 4, the Juvenile Filly Sprint at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Some interesting runners in that one. To Aqueduct we go next, and the Saturday card at Aqueduct includes 2 major turf stakes here as the season winds down in New York City. We've got the Red Smith second, but first up, the Pebbles. So graded stakes company here. The Pebbles is a grade 3 for 3-year-old fillies, $200,000 turf mile. And if I'm going to talk about fillies on the turf, I'm going to tell you all about Chad Brown, right? Well, of course, it's what he does. And for the last 5 years, he's had the winner of this race, the Pebbles, 5 of the last 7. So when you glance down the program, you don't even get an inch below the conditions before you find the first of 3 Chad Brown entries, that being implicated. He also has startup mentality and Rhiannon in this race. Jeff, can they beat Chad Brown, or are we taking one of the Browns?
We're taking one of the Browns. We're taking Rhiannon. I've always was a Stevie Nicks fan, so I was kind of leaning towards Rhiannon anyway.
Right.
But I went back and watched her race, and we'll show it in a minute. But her maiden win was visually so pleasing. Obviously, she didn't handle the mud at Saratoga in her debut. But the key there, Jeremy, is that she was 2-1 in that race. And so somebody must have thought she could run, but she kind of floundered in the mud, drew a line through that. Chad Brown ran her back in a maiden race. She just parked with a huge 91 bar number. That's basically a graded stakes number for a filly. She was actually entered back on October 22nd, and the now owners at 2. The race came off the turf. So Chad says, I've seen her on an off track. I'm not doing that again. So she was scratched, worked the next day, nothing wrong with her, and trained right up to this race. But what I loved about this daughter, Medaglia d'Oro, she switched off like a filly had run 100 times in this race, even though it was just her second start. She relaxed. She quickened on the turn to take the lead. She drew off, a beautiful mover, light on her feet. Just a really, really good filly. And she's 2-1 on the morning line. I would take that in a heartbeat if I could get it. And I like Rhiannon to win the Pebbles, not only based on all the things that I just said, but again, the visual was very impressive as well.
Well, let's go back and take a look at it from Aqueduct just a little while back.
They head for home with Rhiannon in front. Rhiannon is the leader. War Princess is back running in second. Then comes Vanished and Akela, followed by Pippi Longstocking and African Waters. Rhiannon is pouring it on here. Rhiannon opens up in deep stretch here. Rhiannon breaks her maiden impressively under Kendrick Carmouche.
You know, there's a lost opportunity there. With all due respect to John Embrial, much better race color than I'll ever be, but you had the Stevie Nicks line just sitting there, laying there out there for you. Rhiannon, will you ever win? Of course you're going to win. She's 8 in front. You could have you could have just dropped the line in there. I don't know though. Maybe you get in trouble from ASCAP or something like that for dropping the lyric in. Let's go to the Red Smith. Red Smith never had trouble turning a phrase. That's the next stakes that we're going to look at Aqueduct on Saturday. The Red Smith for the older turf division. Grade 2, 300,000, mile and 3/8. Now look, this is after the fact of the Breeders' Cup, so you're not going to get the absolute top of the top in the American turf division. But Jeff, I'm not so sure after watching the Breeders' Cup, we have a top of the top in the American turf division anymore. This race, though, does benefit a little bit, I think, from the Canadian International being a race that's a little bit earlier on the calendar now. That was one that used to be after Breeders' Cup, the Canadian International. So, you know, this is a race that might pick up a little bit from, you know, horses in the Northeast who might want to run for this 300,000. So it's not a bad field. There's a little bit of depth to it. We've got a big field, and we've seen these horses kind of battle each other, whether it's through Kentucky Downs or New York and places like that throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, I'm gonna try a fresh face because I've seen these horses. You know, I mean, and the problem with a lot of them is that I've seen them. I've probably played them at least most of them at least once, and you know, and they're just. I wouldn't. I mean, they're okay. I mean, you know, 911 Turbo is very consistent for sure. He's good. I mean, nothing wrong with Soldier Rising's last race. All of these horses are older, tougher. I'm going to try a 15-1 shot, and trust me, I wouldn't even pick this horse if he wasn't 15-1. You need a price when you're taking a horse like this. But Lost Ark, to me, 3-year-old. He's a developing 3-year-old. He's a fresh face. His numbers are rising. He's gone from, I'm talking about buyer numbers from 83 to 84 to 90. Now, the last race was over a sloppy track. It doesn't really equate here. But what I like about him is that he strikes me as a horse that's going to like a mile and 3/8 because he's kind of a grinding type horse. He stays on. He doesn't have a great move. Right. He's got that rail. I think he's going to. I don't know if he'll be in front. I'm not sure what they're going to do with So High, but probably send him. But I mean, he could draft into a really good stalking position and just grind away. And if he continues to improve for Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz, you don't get that team too many times at 15-1. I thought there's a chance that he would improve enough that he could maybe run with these horses. So I want to try him at 15-1. If he gets beat, he gets beat. But the others, I mean, it's like one step forward, two step back with the rest of them. I like something, but then I don't like two things about them, Can't embrace them. So let's try Lost Ark. Hopefully he'll step forward. Lightly raced colt with AP Indy on the bottom. He should like a distance to ground, and I think Lost Ark's going to step forward again, and who knows, maybe win.
Soldier Rising, a late runner in here who was second in the Manhattan back on Belmont Day. And boy, has that race looked better and better as Up to the Mark has gone on to just a tremendous season. And he held up his end of the American Turf bargain on British Day, really one of the few who did. But Soldier Rising hasn't been able to capitalize on that since. So while you love that running line and saying, boy, that was a good second to Up to the Mark, the races since just have kind of been the same, right? There just doesn't seem to be any sort of forward move there. But numbers-wise, as fast as anything in here, but Warlike Goddess, Bolshoi Ballet just seems to find somebody who's better each time. Soldier Rising at 3-1 in the morning line probably goes off favorite in here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. Yep. And curious about Masterpiece in here. I gave this horse a shot in the Arlington Million out of that skeptical side eye, as well as we saw Rick Dutrow improve the Safi Joseph trained White Abario. I was kind of thinking the same thing might happen with Masterpiece on the turf in the Arlington Million and didn't run a jump. If we see a massive move forward this time in Masterpiece, it's not going to be an I told you so moment, but it's going to be a, boy, I thought it might happen. I'm not sure. It's a tough post for Masterpiece out there. But if Dutrow moves up Masterpiece, nobody's going to be shocked, right?
Right. No, I've tried him. I remember his Eddie Reed win, and I've been trying him ever since. And that was already a year ago, September. I've seen him. He's been bet heavily in a couple of races, hasn't been able to deliver. And if you look at it, if you're just going on company kept and things like that, he's tough. But I would rather try a 15-1 shot than him. And again, if Lost Ark isn't quite up to it, I'll understand. But I just have a hunch that maybe he can step forward, and he's going to have to. Otherwise, he wouldn't be 15-1. But that's the gamble in the race for me, and we'll see what happens.
Hope you got seats on that bus at 15-1. I'd jump on that ride and see where we can get with Lost Ark. Let's go to Woodbine now for a pair of stakes races on the Saturday program. We've got the Maple Leaf and the Ontario Matron in back-to-back offerings. Maple Leaf is 1.25 miles on the synthetic there at Woodbine on the Tapeta. Grade 3 company there for $150,000. And Jeff, let's get your thoughts on the Maple Leaf. Who's going to win at the classic distance?
I like Millie Girl here. I mean, she's won a race called Ontario Matron, which was 1 mile and 1/16. And we'll watch that race in a minute. But the first impression I got in watching that race when going back to evaluate her race in handicapping this one is, okay, there is 1 mile and 1/4 filly. I mean, she's a good mover. She relaxes. She didn't get a great trip. She was in a box most of the way. When she angled out and got clear in the upper stretch, I mean, she didn't blast home, but you don't necessarily need to have a blast move going 1.25 miles. You just need to stay on. And she stayed on, was up in time, galloped out well, lightly raced. She's won 4 out of 9, 2 wins already at Woodbine on the all-weather. Beautifully bred mare who's fresh. She's, like I say, she's 5 years of age, but she's only had the 9 starts, so I think she's got room for improvement. Jock rides her back. 3-1. Yeah, I could deal with that. I like Millie Girl. I based on the visual that she produced in her most recent win over the same all-weather surface.
Now, listeners of this podcast and others know I say this term a lot, but sometimes you got to handicap the handicappers. Jeff Siegel has bypassed 3 offspring of Curlin in this race to pick Millie Girl. He must really like Millie Girl. That's something that you got to keep in mind.
Well, you remember Curlin's owner hated the plastic. Remember that?
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe although Curlin they run on anything, but still I kept in the back of my mind. Well, this is all weather and. I think Millie Girl is proven, and the Curl. I mean, You're right. By the way, you're right about that. If I'm not picking a Curlin, I must really like the horse, another horse in the same race. Nothing wrong with hard spun in the all weather though, so I'll go that way.
Of course, you're talking Curlin's owner, the late Jess Jackson.
Right.
He used to take umbrage with things I wrote on ESPN.com and would send out his employees to yell at me on email about things that he didn't like that I wrote about. So I have nothing but good things to say these days about Curlin and all the offspring of such. But Millie Girl, as Jeff mentioned, very impressive visually in the matron last time. Let's go take a look at that.
Millie Girl behind them making ground. Mufi the big threat. Turning in front is Angelou. And on the outside, Mufi within a length. Il Malocchio on the inside battling away. Angelou holding them. Angelou in front. On the inside, Il Malocchio, Mufi. And down the outside is Millie Girl. And now Il Malocchio coming after Angelou. And Il Malocchio poking up on the inside. Angelou in front. Angelou and now flying on the outside. Millie Girl got it. Millie Girl at the wire from Angelou and Il Malocchio behind the Mufi, 141.96.
See if she can do it again. And Angelou, the runner-up in there, was one of those 3 Curlins that we're going to see back in the co-main event on Saturday at Woodbine. The Best Arabian Stakes is also Grade 2 company here. 7 furlongs on the main track, the Tapeta at Woodbine. This goes for $175,000. And we're not looking at the 1.25 mile classic type distance, but we are looking at a demanding distance. 7 furlongs for the sprinters, Jeff. I don't care if it's, allowance company, claimers. 7 furlongs to me is the toughest sprint of all. 6, you got to be brilliant, but the stamina doesn't necessarily be required. The 1-turn mile races usually go at an easier pace, and so therefore they don't demand as much. 7 furlongs is usually just pedal to the metal from the start, and what do you got left the final 8?
Right. It's tough for speed horses, and that's why maybe more so than any other distance, 7 furlongs to me, I really have to do a good pace analysis there because if the speed horses get cooked, the closers have a great chance. If there's lone speed or the pace is going to be soft, then the 7 furlong races seem to be affected more by the opening quarter and half in any race I've seen.
Right.
I went, sometimes when you handicap a race, especially with a lot of horses in the race, and this one's got 14, you skim. You start at the top and you skim down and you see if there's anything that jumps off the page. And then if nothing does, you go back and do it again 2 or 3 times and try to find something. And then all of a sudden you realize this looks like Swahili to me. I mean, really, I can't even figure out what's going on in this race. The only thing that I do know, I kind of defaulted to this, and that is our flash drive, who was 8-1 on the morning line, was essentially 6-5 against the same group last time and didn't run. She just didn't run. But she won this race last year by almost 6 lengths and earned a career top buyer number in the process. Well, I maybe wouldn't have liked her at 6-5 against this group back in mid-October in the Ontario fashion, but now she's 8-1. Husband's rides are back from Mark Casse. Yeah. She's 5 years of age, a daughter of Go Saffer, and she's won 4 out of 6 at Woodbine. If she wasn't right, I don't think they would be pressing on with her. She doesn't need to prove anything anymore. But she's running back. And maybe I'm thinking that maybe Mark figured out something, that maybe there was a problem or an issue or something that they could correct. Because I can't tell you what, 8-1 on her, based on her form on this track, is a gamble if you knew that she was okay. I don't know that, but I'm going to I'm going to trust Mark Casse here and Husbands that she's going to bounce back. And if she does, I know she's good enough. So I'm going to try her at 8-1 and hope that there was a reason why she didn't run so well last time.
Well, last year she won this race at 8-5 and from a stalking position and able to pounce. She likes the trip. She likes the track. This particular race, I like defending champions in any stakes race. I really do. I think it's a solid angle. And, look, maybe you're going to get a much better price this time around than the 8-5 last year. So big field in there, demand a little bit of value in race number 9, the Best Arabian Stakes on Saturday at Woodbine. So we still have 2 more races and 2 more tracks to get to on our international journey from Canada back to the U.S. here. Let's take a look at the schedule. We've got Churchill Downs in the River City coming up on Saturday, and also Saturday's Del Mar feature, the Catherine Crosby. So let's go to the River City next, Jeff. It's 1 1/8 miles on the turf at Churchill Downs. Around the 9 furlongs, another field here where we've got a nice, good field size in here, capacity group, and some names like this race does compete directly with what we talked about, the race in New York, the Red Smith. A lot of the same kind of horses, that would go in the Red Smith could run down here as well, including Rock Emperor, one who comes, down here for Chad Brown from New York. So this is a race that still drew a big field. The Red Smith still drew a big field. So there are plenty of older turf males this time of year post Breeders' Cup that want to run for 200,000-300,000. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's another grass grab bag here, and again, you could pick a name out of a hat and make and say, okay, here's your pick. Now make a case for it. And you probably could, I ended up, excuse me, with Cellist along the rail. I like the inside draw. He'll save ground. I thought he ran really well in the Sycamore. Got tagged late, tough beat there, but ran well. I also defaulting to the 4 starts, 2 wins, and a third record on the Churchill Downs grass course, which I like. This is just his 4th start this year, so he looks like he's rounding into form. Earned a career top number in the Sycamore, even though he got beat. Now, granted, that's 1.5 miles. He's backing up to 1.8 miles, but that's fine. A middle distance is probably just as good, if not better, for him. Yeah. He's 5-1 in the morning line. Marty Garcia knows him well, and he's going to be forwardly placed in a race that probably won't have fast splits. I mean, he's one of several that can win, but I trust that Cellist is going to run well. And at 5-1, if you're going to gamble in the race, I mean, he's as good as any.
There's only 2 last out winners in this race. So there are horses who are trying to find the right spots, right? And then some are dropping in class and some are changing venues. With Cellist, he's in good form, right? He's just like right there. 4 straight races, 2nd or 3rd against good competition. So you got the inside. You're eliminating variables, right? You've got some early pace, so you're not worried about the way the race shakes out. You've got the inside, so you take away some variables, and you love the course already, and the horse can run well beyond 1.8 miles. So like you said, you're trying to figure out and pare down a grab bag kind of race, get rid of the variables, and you say, really, there's nothing that crosses a line through Cellist, right? He checks all the boxes. He just needs to be the best horse in this particular day, but there's no reason to eliminate him based on his form. Let's see what he can do under a good hustling inside rider like that, under a good speed rider under Garcia. Having the inside like that, he's probably going to take advantage of having that inside post. That's the River City, 1.8 miles on the turf at Churchill on Saturday. We've got one more to handicap, and we will stay on the turf, but we'll go to the West Coast for this one. The Turf Mile on race number 7 at Del Mar is named after Catherine Crosby, I believe the wife of Bing Crosby. Am I correct there, or is it? I
believe that is correct. I didn't know them personally. They were a little bit before my time, but I think you probably nailed that one.
All right, so we've got fillies and mares here. 75,000. This is a glorified allowance purse in Southern California, but they got, it's still stakes company, and it's good to get the black type on your resume. We've got some graded stakes alumni in this particular spot, so don't let the purse fool you for 75,000. This race could certainly be a grade 3, grade 2 type on the West Coast based on, you got horses coming out of the Matriarch last year. You got Turner Loose coming out of the Rodeo Drive, which is the top Breeders' Cup prep for the Filly Mare Turf Division on the West Coast. This is a pretty good group for 75,000.
It is, and again, another situation where several of these have a chance. I originally opted for Dulce Zell. Phil D'Amato's got her. She has not been out since December of last year. Her form was pretty good. I could be making a mistake here, and I've made many, so I'm very familiar with what I can and can't do right. But Dulce Zell, I watched her last couple of works. Wasn't that thrilled with either one of them. She was at Los Al, the work tab's light. I just don't know how cranked up she is. She did run well fresh, so I'll give her that. I was going to try her, and then I said, I don't know if I want her at 5-2. I'll try something different. I ended up with Linda's Gift along the rail, who I know likes the course. I liked her win 2 races back when she went slow early and kicked home there really nicely, was uncatchable in that race. The last race she ran in at Santa Anita, she chased Graceland Gray home, and those of us who have seen Graceland Gray know that if you hand her the lead, she's almost a Breeders' Cup quality. You never get by her. And that's what happened. Linda's Gift, they took her. I don't know if they took her back, but I mean, the winner showed good speed and kept going. But I didn't think that was a bad effort because nobody catches Graceland Gray when you hand her the front end. So she's in form. Again, a lightly race this year. This will be her 4th start. Number-wise, I mean, she actually earned a career top speed figure when she got beat by
Mm-hmm.
Graceland Gray last time out. So that was a good effort. And again, inside draw. The other thing about her is even though she won gate to wire, she's won from off the pace in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is speed in the outside that want it badly, she can tuck in, save ground, stalk, pounce, and go. So at 5-1 in the morning line for Richard Mandela, I like Linda's Gift maybe as good as any at 5-1, maybe to pull off a mild surprise in the Catherine Crosby.
And she may have to sit just a little bit in this particular spot because Turner Loose just kind of knows one gear, and she's been so disappointing since coming west, a former Brad Cox trainee. Now with the D'Amato barn, she just hasn't found the home. I thought she was prime made for the Southern California short pool table turf courses, as you like to call them. I thought her speed from the East Coast was really going to translate well out here on the West, and she just hasn't to this point. She does take a class drop in here, obviously. Maybe she finds more friendly company here, and she can take them farther on the front end. But Turner Loose has been disappointing, and at a short price, I got to see her do it before I take her any longer. Interesting field in the Catherine.
It is, and I want to mention Ganadora's in there. She could be a pace factor as well. I don't know if they're going to send her or not, but there's a few others. Lucky for you, Bob Baffert's got both of those. I don't think he'll send them both. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he scratched one. That's how he operates. But it all means to me that Linda's Gift can kind of play the brake, so to speak. And if there's no speed, she'll fall into it. But if the two want to go, the connections know that, we could sit. It wouldn't hurt her. She's done that before. So anyway, it's an interesting race as all these stakes races at Del Mar for grass is concerned, because you're not going to have any grass racing in California in December. And a lot of guys will run these horses on grass knowing that there's nowhere to go really in the month. So, these grass races are going to feel pretty good. And this is a very competitive race, even though it's a non-graded race, and 75,000 is on the low end of what any stakes is in North America these days. But it's an important race for some of these, so it'll be a good race.
And that race is part of the late pick 4, I believe. Is that? That'll be part of the late pick 4 on Saturday. So again, get involved in that hit and split, $2,000 hit and split at Del Mar. When you play with First Bet and Express Bet, take down the late pick 4 and add to your pari-mutuel winnings. It's as easy as that. That's going to wrap up our podcast and our handicapping for this weekend. Again, want to remind folks, you can get my selections for tonight's 3 stakes races as part of the $50,000 guaranteed primetime pick 4 pool at Remington Park. I'll be sending those out via Substack, a free email service. So go to substack.com and look for jeremy.plonk. Sign up for that, and I'll send those out late afternoon into evening, later post time at Remington Park, 8 o'clock Eastern for folks following that for the first race on the card. Del Mar goes a little bit earlier. Again, it's opening day, 12:30 Pacific, so 3:30 Eastern. The card is going to kick off at Del Mar. Jeff's got selections for you at Del Mar each day of the meet on the blog section at Express Bet and First Bet. Jeff, tell people what you're going to be doing between now and, say, December 26th when Santa Anita kicks back up.
Right. Well, we'll have best plays at Del Mar every racing day at Del Mar. Saturdays we'll augment with a few national best plays, and we'll be doing that throughout the season. I don't cover Los Al in December. I kind of sit back and relax and get mentally geared up for the long haul. But I will be looking at Gulfstream very closely and may end up doing some work there just on a spot basis. If I like something, I'll post it. But December usually is a time where you regenerate the batteries and look forward to what should be a great meeting first day after Christmas.
Oh, don't kid the people. You're going to immerse yourself in college basketball in December. I know.
Well, that's part of the part of the package for sure. I mean, looking forward to going to Honolulu for the Maui Classic in a couple of weeks. We'll be doing that. That looks like a Final Four, the teams that they have there. And the Bruins will be there. So that'll be fun. And then, but Jeremy, when you in this day and age, you can be on the moon and still watch races and
that's right.
You're never far away from knowing what's going on in this world. So I'll be following the races even when I'm laying on the beach in Honolulu.
I believe that, no doubt about it. Just a programming note, because Jeff mentioned it with him out that week. We will not have any of our podcasts on Thanksgiving week. So our Tuesday, It's Official, and our Friday First Call will be off that week. We'll be dark, if you will, in racing terms, Thanksgiving week. So we'll be with you all next week. We've got 2 more shows for you. We're back on Tuesday with It's Official next week. We'll have our Friday First Call podcast next week as well before taking off that Thanksgiving week. So on behalf of everybody with First Bet and Express Bet, my partner Jeff Siegel, Great racing this weekend all around the First family of racetracks. Be sure to get out to one of them and support them. If not, play online with First Bet and Express Bet. And we'll see you on Tuesday. Good luck, everybody.